Hi, everybody on Facebook and on Zoom. Once again, I'm Brian from Gays with Kids and GWK Academy. I want to thank you for joining us. We are here today to talk about adoption and foster care. Now, you're in for a special treat. For those of you who arrived here early, already know this because you've seen them and met them. But we have two of our favorite dads to showcase. Mikey from New York, if you want to just wave, and then Craig from Ohio. Craig, you can wave. These guys each completed their journeys as single dads and are here to talk about adoption. Mikey will share his journey becoming a dad through the foster care system, and Craig sharing his journey becoming a dad through domestic infant adoption. Now, these guys have joined us for webinars, Instagram Lives, and Mikey actually joined us for our first in-person event. I can tell you they're very open and willing to answer all your questions. Is that right, guys?
Definitely.
Yeah. So my suggestion is, as your questions come up, share them right away, either using the chat or Q&A function here on Zoom, or if you're watching on Facebook, by leaving a comment. We will answer your questions at the end. I don't want to interrupt them when they're talking, but I promise you that we've left time for your questions at the very end. So go ahead and ask them as soon as they come up. I don't want you to forget anything. One more note about Mikey and Craig. These guys don't just help us out during events, but we also count on them to help others who are going through their journeys to fatherhood as mentors for GWK Academy, meaning they're open to supporting. Again, if you enroll in GWK Academy's adoption foster care course, one of the benefits of that is that you get to connect with others who have recently gone through, or in the last several years, gone through a similar journey. A quick commercial interruption in case you don't already know, GWK Academy is our app/platform to help you become a dad. And you can visit us on your favorite app platform or just go to gwkacademy.com. One last note of clarity before we get going here. When it comes to adopting here in the US, you have two choices. You can adopt a newborn through an agency or via the help of a lawyer or other adoption professional, or you can adopt through the foster care system. Now, the foster care system has been designed to support struggling birth families, and kids can enter the system from any time, really from birth till they're 18 years of age, even older, depending on the state and what the age limitations are. But there are currently 400,000 kids in the foster care system. Now, it's designed to have these kids reunite with their birth family members. That could be parents, grandparents, it could be cousins twice removed. However, sadly, a bunch of these kids, in fact, more than 25% of them, have no birth family members to be reunited with. These kids are languishing in the system, and they're just looking for forever families that they can call their own. These are the kids who have been freed up for adoption. Enough about that now. I think that's great background for you to have. Why don't we get to the dad? So first, Michael and Craig, hello, welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's great to see you both.
Likewise, Brian. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having us.
That's my pleasure, as always, as always. All right, so Michael, why don't you start and share your story?
Well, you know, but for my friends out there, my journey started actually by following you guys on Instagram. And from your Instagram, I was able to be connected with my organization, YGB, which is You Gotta Believe. You Gotta Believe mission is that every child in foster care deserves to have a family, a forever family, before they age out. So depending on what state you're from, that could be anywhere from 18 to 21. And so I was linked through, by, like I said, following you guys' Instagram page. I was able to connect with YGB. I did I think a 10-week mapping course, which is you have to go through a state training. And then after that, I moved back I was living in the inner city back to Westchester, where I'm at now. My home was licensed, and then COVID hit, and it kind of slowed up the process just a little bit. But in 2020 in July, I was introduced to my son, who was 8 at the time. And then I went up to Massachusetts to visit him. And say about 4 or 5 times, COVID broke out, and when he was supposed to come to my house for a visit. A couple of kids in the unit. He was in St. Anne, a group home at the time, and they said, "Well, you know what? Can't come home because somebody in the unit has COVID." And I was really sad. It was going to be his first visit to New York. So we waited about 3 weeks later, and again the same thing happened. I said, "No, listen, he's going to come quarantine in my home." He came, and he came for 2 weeks, which is typically unheard of. Most of the time, children come for about a weekend or so, but he came for 2 weeks. He then returned back to Massachusetts for like another 3 weeks. And then on November 11th, which was Veterans Day, he moved in my home, and the journey started from there. And then November 19th, a year later, 2021, our adoption was finalized, and we have been together ever since. And now my son is 11, headed to middle school, but any and everything you could have imagined happened in the last 3 years has happened, good or bad. But that's the foster kid through foster to adopt journey for me.
Thank you. We're going to come back to you because we have a bunch of questions for you. Craig, first of all, I apologize because as soon as I said what I said introducing you, I realized it was wrong. You did not become a dad as a single man.
Right.
Not you. I'll let you tell your story because
Oh,
you're
yeah, no, thank you.
me.
Yeah. So my then husband, current co-parent, he and I started our adoption journey. We actually met two friends of ours who were gay dads at the time. And that's what I love about Gays with Kids, the network that it builds, because I think, for same-sex parents, there's being able to lean on other people who've gone through the same experience is extremely helpful. So we reached out to our friends, we grabbed dinner with them, and they shared with us and recommended an adoption agency here in Columbus, which we feel so fortunate to have here in Ohio. The Choice Network, met a friend of course, Gays with Kids, Molly, who started and founded Choice Network. And her goal is to be the leading adoption agency for LGBTQ families. And statistics she'll share is a lot of the times, actually, I think it's 1 in 4 adoption agencies, only 1 in 4 are accepting of LGBTQ families. And so she wants to be a space where people feel safe, welcome, open to come in and start their family planning process. And Molly was an incredible resource for us. She connected us to our birth mother who lives up in Michigan. We were connected to her at 14 weeks. Most adoptions nowadays are open adoptions, so there is some sort of relationship with the mother. We have a great relationship with Charlotte, our daughter Isabella's, our daughter's biological mother. We were matched up at 14 weeks, built a great relationship with Charlotte, the mother, and her family. They've really become extended family of ours, and we still stay in touch to this day. And she delivered our daughter Isabella up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which sadly is the home of University of Michigan, and here in Columbus, that's fighting words for our Ohio State fans. But we brought her home soon after, had to stay up there for a week to finalize all of the paperwork and the adoption process before we took her back. There was several visits that took place with the Choice Network after the fact, but we've had our daughter ever since. She's now soon to be 6 years old next month, and today was her first day of kindergarten. So she got to meet her teacher and hop in for a brief moment. They're doing a staggered start, but her first full day is on Friday. So, but yeah, that's been our journey. We've had an incredible experience, and we have just grateful for every moment, every memory that we get to build with our daughter.
Tell me too, did you cry at all when you dropped her off?
A little bit. It was hard. It was the moment when she, you lean down and give her a hug, and then she walks up to the teacher. It's I mean, she's been in pre-K for years now, so it's not unusual, but it is a different feeling, I will say. And of course, she was so excited.
Oh, that's awesome. I do have a question. What drew you guys, both of you, to adoption? And then I'd also want if you could both answer, how long did all the paperwork, so once you found your agencies, how long did all that take, and what was involved in that part of the journey?
I'll start maybe. Well, being gay, I mean, so obviously it wasn't going to happen the natural way. And so I had to look at my the next best option, and this option presented itself. Like I said, I wasn't able to afford financially to go out there and to do it, and then also I kind of wanted an older child. I didn't want to have to go through the little goober phase and have goldfish in the back of the car and everything like that. I was like, I need somebody who was already potty trained and could hit the ground running.
Yeah, well played.
So so this was my option to go this way. Again, working with the adoption agency, it depends on your situation. If I knew I was going full steam ahead with this, so I prepared myself. I lined everything up to do the necessary steps. Sometimes people just get licensed and they kind of sit around and they wait. They just may hang out and see what other people are doing. But I knew that I wanted to do this. I was doing this journey on my own as a single dad, and I was so glad that I had to do it. But normally, like I said, you have to take a 10-week course, and you can go out of order. But I took it, in order because I was just that serious with it. And then, like I said, maybe 2 or 3 months after that, I had to do the home study where they come and deem your home safe and suitable for a child to live there. And then again, COVID broke out. So that took like an extra 6, maybe 4 to 5 months. But it depends. But I think my journey moved pretty fast. If you take out COVID, where we weren't really doing Zoom and stuff, they had to figure stuff out. In-person activities came to a halt. We were all indoors, stuck inside. So that came to a screeching halt, from that like March all the way until like maybe June. So sitting there for that period of time was just lost time. But I always say in that time, I made sure to find out where my son's pediatrician was going to be, where they were going to go to school at, what resources are in my community, and just taking the time to engage my family and friends. Because at that time it was going through, the house. I was like, okay, I'm done. So it was like, okay, now it's time to have, some type of a shower for me or something. Like I didn't want to skip a beat on anything. I deserved all the bells and whistles because for so long I have been giving everybody else bells and whistles. And I was like, okay, that was my turn. And the love was reciprocated. So it just depends, but usually it can take anywhere. I could say like a whole, maybe 5 months to go through class and then get your home deemed and everything like that. So at least the 5 months, but then however you find your child after that depends on you.
Okay, great. And I have a question. How did you even find the pediatrician and figure out school and all that kind of stuff?
Well, because I was in my area where I grew up at, and I just, was like, okay, I'm moving here. So if I move here, your vicinity says that your child should go to school over here. And it was like, okay, well, let me just, go over here and say, hey, let me introduce myself to a pediatrician or find, hey, you guys take new cases. And they was like, yeah, sure, not a problem. So I was just putting the cards face down on the table, just, getting everything lined up, if you will, so to speak. So that's really important because you don't want to wait and get a child in your home and you're scrambling to figure out everything, so you kind of want to know what you're doing, who has opening. If you're a parent who needs to go back to work, it's like, do you have daycare? Do you have somebody if you don't have family? There's times where certain places are booked up. I'm pretty sure, you like, okay, this preschool is not taking anybody right now, or in enrollment right now. So it just getting all the information you can to prepare yourself is important.
Mikey, you're better than me with a pediatrician front. I think I called the pediatrician the day after my daughter was born. He's here, but yeah. And I would say too, I think from a paperwork perspective, it was a similar time frame for us through the adoption agency. We had to in Ohio, the requirements are based around you have to get the home study, which Molly is amazing at Choice Network. She made it as easy as possible. Our home study process was her coming over with pizza and just asking us about our dreams as parents and what we wanted to achieve. And she, I think in the past, she had even maybe done it with a bottle of wine with other parents. So, but, and then we had to do we had to get a fire inspection as well. So there were stairs, emergency stairs that you had to have on every window above a certain level, which, all these, as I'm talking about all these paperwork pieces and all these processes you have to go through. One thing to note is not to stress out about it, because by and large, everybody who's involved with this process wants you to be successful and wants you to have a child. It's just doing the due diligence of making sure the child is safe. So I remember, for example, with the fire inspection, I was freaking out. I was very anxious that, you had to have a fire plan on every floor of where you're going to go. And I was in the basement making sure there were plugs, plastic plugs on the electrical outlets in the ceilings that the child can never reach anyway. And I remember the guy who did the fire inspection, he said, wow, you guys actually took your emergency ladders out of the box. Most people don't even do that, so but in addition to that, we filled out a myriad of paperwork. They did a financial background check. There's probably 50 or 60 pages of paperwork to do. But once you go through all of that, the agency or whoever you work with, they are there to help you, and they want you to succeed through this process. It's interesting too. In Ohio, the foster paperwork is the same as the adoption paperwork. So it's very detailed. So there's things you would and would not consider in a child. But as you get deeper into the pages, it gets very specific, things like, would you accept a child convicted of aggravated murder and, public masturbation, like all these things. And, obviously that doesn't necessarily apply to you, but the paperwork is just very thorough, again, because they're doing that due diligence. But don't let that intimidate you. It shouldn't be a barrier in that process. And then from that point, one of the things that Molly shared with us, and she shares commonly with many of her families, is that gay dads tend to get picked faster in the adoption process than straight couples. And what she explained was that for the mother, psychologically, even if she's never going to see this child again or have any sort of relationship, she knows that she'll never be replaced as the mother by two men. And so our process was actually pretty quick, I will say, in getting selected. We set up a profile through the Choice Network website. In many respects, it's kind of like a dating website, that process. You post about yourself, post photos. And then Charlotte found us, and we met her soon after. It's a very informal process when you do get connected to the mother. We met her at her first ultrasound appointment, and we were trying to impress her and make a good relationship, good connection with her. And we asked the Choice Network staff member there afterward, when do we find out if she picked us? And she told us, oh, she's already picked you. You guys have, she loves you guys. So again, the process is long, it's anxiety inducing, but it's meant to be there for you to be successful too. So.
And I'll just add on to that. I always tell other dads and people that are going through it right now, it's the 9 months that it takes to carry a baby.
Right.
So look at it that time, the baby just doesn't come out, it's just not there. It takes time,
Yeah.
So that's the same process with us. It just takes time. And again, like you said, Craig, we are being picked and chosen at a high rate right now. I like to say we're hot. So don't discourage you, because at one time it was like, yeah, who's going to give gay? That was the thing. It wasn't, but now it is so cool and so popular. And you have so many other kids who are identifying as so many different things under the umbrella. So they are like, well, who better suit for you to live with or whatever. So
yeah,
the window is wide open for dads right now.
Yeah. That's true. In fact, Molly's right, certainly about with the birth mother's perspective. Another perspective that I've heard often is that when it comes to choosing parents for a newborn baby, birth families, birth moms, especially, also know, let's face it, you show me a gay man and I'll show you someone who's resilient. I'll show you someone who have to deal with coming out and have to deal with being different. And so they know that we're more resilient than we know, just by virtue of who we are, that we're resilient and that we're probably going to be more easily able to deal with challenges that will come up that will be. So yeah, I agree. I think we gays get chosen probably quicker than our straight counterparts. For sure. So I do want to make another quick commercial note. So both Molly from Choice Network and You Gotta Believe are indeed, we have a small exclusive network of our closest family building partners. These are the ones that we invite for webinars. We ask them to let us know about dads, to talk to. They were very involved in helping us create the content that we got going, and we support each other all year round. In fact, Micah, You Gotta Believe's having their big fundraising event, the Voices event. Are you going to be there?
It is. It's going down September 18th. I'm actually a committee host. So,
Guess what? I'm gonna see you there. My husband and I are coming in.
okay, they just announced the lineup. So there's a few people on there, a few celebrities that's in the building. It's going to be a really extraordinary night.
It's gonna be awesome. Yes. So if you guys are, if anyone's watching from the New York City area, you should totally come to the Voices. Just go to yougotabelieve.org and get more information on this. Craig,
Nice.
it's totally worth your while to come to the city for
I
that.
know, I was like, I'll have to fly in.
All right, so getting back to some questions from folks. I think that something else that someone asked about the home study, but I think you already gave answers on that. And let me just go quickly on Facebook. So someone has asked us, and we get this asked all the time, how much does it cost? So I'm happy to give why don't you guys go first and then let me fill in from there. So Mike, do you want to talk about how much it costs to adopt to the foster care system?
Well, through the foster care system, it's actually free. I had to pay nothing, and you actually do get a stipend every month to help you support with the child. That is one of the benefits of taking a child out of the system, is that they will help you. Now, don't get it, twisted. It's not a whole lot of money. You know what I'm trying to say? So you have to be, like you said, they're already going to comb through your finances and everything before then. You don't have to be rich to do this, but it's just to help offset costs that you probably never had to. These little league things are very expensive. Your kids grow really fast. 1 minute he's in a size 5 shoe, and then the next he's in a 7. He's 10 to 12. Then you bring out the summer clothes again, and now they're in a 12 or 14. So it does come in handy for those type of things. But it actually usually costs nothing, and if at best, maybe just legal fees. And there are so many different, I would say, different things out there to help you pay and all of that other stuff like that. But for me, it was actually free through my organization. And we were also the recipients of the Willie Garson Fund. And Willie Garson, as anybody, if you don't know, he was an actor and very popular on Sex and the City. He adopted his son, Mason. And so he was a big supporter and a strong believer in kids coming out of foster care. And so we were the recipient when he passed away. They started a fund, and me and my son was actually we were the first to receive some of that fund, which helps offset the cost of travel if you need to stay overnight in a hotel or wherever to get you to the adoption. They do all of those things. But in our case, like I said, it was still COVID, so we had Zoom, but they paid for us to have a nice pizza party and a welcome home party for SJ. So that was amazing.
I did not see. I'm just learning something new about you. I don't think I knew that about the Willie Garson, that you were a recipient of the Willie Garson Fund. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, Craig. And so you're right. I think the most that you might have to upfront, depending on the state, are the legal fees. But even then, typically the state or some other organization is going to reimburse those fees. So Craig, unfortunately, that is not the case.
A little different, slightly. Yeah. So this was, mind you, this was 6 years ago. So I don't know how much fees have changed since then. And I do want to clarify that Choice Network, the agency that we use, is set up as a nonprofit. So they're not aiming to make money off of this, Molly and her team. The fee at the time was $25,000, not including legal expenses, which probably, from my memory, was about another $3,000 or $4,000. And then you may run into an instance where you have to, or you're asked to pay some of the mother's expenses when it comes to driving to appointments, food, etc. In our case, we were very fortunate. Charlotte did not have many expenses, so it was a pretty small number that we paid in that area. I think it was just gas getting to doctor's appointments. I will say, though, financial, while it is a huge number, there are a number of opportunities to recoup those costs. And the biggest one is through the reimbursable tax credit that the federal government provides. The state of Ohio provides one as well. So we were actually able, in our tax return the following year, we were able to get, I would say, most of that back from the reimbursable tax credit. So it's a huge opportunity. So as you're making your plans and trying to determine if this is something that's financially viable for you, that is a resource available to you. I know there are other funds, scholarships, things like that people can tap into as well to be able to access those services. And I know as well, some employers nowadays will even reimburse employees for a certain amount. There's a huge health system in Ohio, for example, in Columbus. They provide a $20,000 stipend to employees who decide to adopt. So there are a number of resources out there to help you balance that huge financial costs in, as Mikey said, the lifelong expenses that you'll have as a parent as well.
Yes, for sure. In fact, there's another one I like to talk about, Help Us Adopt, which is run by a wonderful woman who she and her husband have adopted a couple of kids. And they give grants of up to $20,000 now.
Wow.
And Becky loves the gays. And so they do a rolling admissions like 4 times a year. And every time they're ready to do another grant funding process, she reaches out to me and says, I want more gay adopted families like applying because I want to give more money to more gays. So
We're pretty great, aren't we?
Yeah. It's really good. All right. So Craig, how do you talk to your daughter? How does she know about Charlotte? Tell us a little bit more about it.
So we pre-COVID, we would visit her once or twice a year, Charlotte. And Isabella is actually has siblings. So she has half siblings. So she has 3 in total. And they live up in Michigan. One lives in Chicago. And so we will go and visit them. I remember vividly, though, there was a book that you have to read as part of the adoption process in Ohio that describes how important an open adoption is to the child, because there is a sense of loss knowing that your mother, your family essentially gave you to another family. And it describes how having that open relationship and being able to communicate in some facet with the mother helps heal that loss. And I remember one day, my co-parent Joel was picking Isabella up from school, and she was maybe 3 at the time. And Joel said, Charlotte's your mom. And Isabella just lit up and she said, I have a mom. And, because all the other kids in her class have a mom. And I think there was a feeling of being left out. But pre-pandemic, we would visit her once or twice a year. Her mother, Tracy, and her dad, I mean, they're just incredible people. And they've really welcomed us into their family. During the pandemic, we stayed in touch virtually. And then Joel just recently took Isabella up to visit her, I believe a couple months ago, just to have a chance to touch base. So we have a lot of conversations about it. I mean, Isabella really hasn't delved into yet, why Charlotte made her decision. But when that time comes, I know we're prepared for that conversation. And it helps to know, I mean, she has answers to the questions that she's going to ask, and she can ask us directly. I know Charlotte has expressed comfort in answering questions that she may have as time progresses.
That's great. In fact, I like to say that's a good one. That as far as language, we started sharing, we have a son through adoption and twins through surrogacy. And as soon as our son was born, my husband wrote a blog post actually, and it was how our family came to be. It was very young language that worked up until he was like 5 or 6. And we read it to him every single night. And then when our girls were born, we had a similar story for them that we read every single night. So we agree, being completely open and transparent is the only way to go, even in instances like ours where it's a closed adoption. So we have no relationship whatsoever with our son's birth mom. Mikey, what about you guys? Is there any relationships with any of your son's birth family or other people in his life before?
Oh, yeah, totally. Again, being, it's a little bit different because my child already knows, obviously, I'm being adopted. But there is still some pieces that you need to fill in. And it is important that you do that before the world do it, because when they start to get out there, there's other adults and kids that will test your kids, ask your kids questions. So you want them prepared at all costs and at all times. My son, his biological father died. He was a drug addict and burnt himself up in a fire, a heroin addict. His mom's just not suited and stable. She had 2 other kids, an older daughter, and then there was my son. Then he has 2 younger sisters. They're in contact. They speak via Zoom. We have traveled up to Boston, to Massachusetts to see them in like the rural area. And he had a biological grandmother who lived in Maine. we went up to see her as well. She was kind of always in the background. She just was a little older and couldn't afford to take them, had an accident at the time that they entered into care. And so I just embraced all of it and helped him put the pieces to everything and understand this lady right here is your foster parent and her husband. So let's say thank you for getting me to this point. This is, you know, and just help him to relax a little bit because I can tell he was traveling heavy. There was a lot of bags that needed to be put down and a lot of questions and things that need to be answered. And so he's doing good now. He understands. Like it is what it is, kid. You know, like your mom is you know, she's, you know, I just told him that she's sickly. She's not able to. I don't get into it too heavy, but I give it to him on a level that he can understand that just at this particular point, this is your life.
Great. All right, guys, we're coming up. I think we were supposed to end this at 1:30, but I do want to ask you, what advice do you have for those considering adoption, foster care? And we'll go with you, Craig, since Mikey just spoke.
Yeah, I would say lean in on the people around you. I mean, that was the biggest saving grace for Joel and I was the dads that we were fortunate enough to have in Columbus who gave us their advice, their experiences. Obviously, the network through Gays with Kids, just to be able to talk to people who've gone through it and provide recommendations. And that extends to things beyond adoption too. I mean, pediatricians, you know, places to visit, you know, just experiences, being able to talk to the people around you and really lean on them for advice and counsel is extremely comforting and very helpful because you're not on your own. I mean, whether you have friends directly or, you know, there's people that you meet on the internet or whomever, there are folks out there who want to help, like myself, like Mikey, like Brian, and you know, just don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help or ask for advice.
Great. Thank you, Craig. Mikey?
The door is wide open for everybody right now. So we thank the people who have cracked the door, kicked the door open so that we all can walk through. So again, so like I said, so thank you to Engage the Academy and all the organizations out there who are making it possible. And for single guys like ourselves or people who just gay people, period, you don't have to miss out on, you know, your paternal instincts. There's a way. And you can do this. Now, if you're just doing this because you think you want to do this or it looks hot, trust me, you don't want to play with this. But if you really want to become a parent and, you know, that sensation is in you, I say go for it. The door is wide open. The opportunities are plenty. You cannot go wrong. Don't let it stop you. You know, we tend to always wait. You know, for me, I didn't want to wait for nobody. I didn't want to wait to be married or anything like that. I was like, I can do this on my own. I set a small goal and I was able to achieve it. And it just feels so great, but do it.
Awesome. Thank you. So that's it. You heard it, guys. If you're watching, whether you're watching here on Zoom or on Facebook, if you want to be a dad, there's no reason not to. And we're all here to help. If you have any questions for any of us, you can send an email to me via dads@gayswithkids.com. If it's for Craig or for Mikey, I will be sure to get it to them, and I know that Bill will respond. Thank you, guys. And if you're interested in learning more about GWK Academy, also send me an email or go to your favorite app store once again and download the app. We're all passionate about helping you guys become dads so you can enjoy everything that we're enjoying. Craig and Mikey, thank you so much again. It's always great to see you. If either of you get to Boston again, I hope you remember.
Yes, next time for sure.
My kids love younger kids. Both of your kids are younger too, so like they'll have lots of older siblings to help them out.
Yeah, I would definitely next time will be on my mind. Sorry about that.
That's good. No worries. Everyone enjoy your weekend and the rest of the summer. Stay safe and have fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.